Hello, coaches. Welcome back to another episode of Coach Better Spotlight. Today, I am chatting with Colleen Ackford and Jennifer Thompson, two members of the amazing coaching team at the international school Nido de Aguilas in Chile. This spotlight gives us a peek inside their established and well-developed coaching program. In the full-length episode, we also chat about how the program got started and evolved over time, how the team used data to build a more robust program based on teachers' needs, how they're continually adapting and evolving to build trust and expand their work with more teachers, as well as the challenges they face in continuing to grow a strong and established coaching program. No matter where you are in building your coaching program, you will find connection points with this episode. Subscribe to Coach Better wherever you get your podcasts. Today's conversation is so great. I've been giving many of my participants inside the coach a sneak peek at the unedited full podcast version way before it airs for all of you today. This window inside an evolving coaching program is so valuable, and everything that we discuss in this episode is part of the learning inside the Coach Certificate and Mentorship Program. Wherever you are in building a coaching culture in your school, the coach will give you the skills, strategies, and tools you need to make coaching a success. This academic year-long online course and mentorship program will empower you to confidently apply instructional coaching strategies in any situation, from building a coaching program to having coaching conversations to being a leader in your school community. Registration for our next global cohort opens on the 21st of February and closes on the 14th of March. Find out more and join the waiting list at edurolearning.com/coach. Welcome back to another episode of the Coach Better podcast. I am super excited to be here with two superstar coaches from Nido de Aguilas in Chile, Colleen Ackford and Jennifer Thompson. And we actually had a previous conversation where they told me all about their amazing coaching program. And I am so happy that they had time to speak to me again for the podcast, because there is so much for us to unpack and talk about here that is going to be so helpful for coaches and coaching teams all around the world. So welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks so much for having us, Kim.
Thank you. Okay, I will get us started. Can I just ask, because Colleen, I see you on my screen right now, can you tell us about your education journey, how you got to where you are today, a little bit about your history as an educator and how you got to Chile?
Yeah, sure. I'm from just outside of Toronto, but I have been living abroad and working in international schools for the past 16 years. I started my work in Bangkok, Thailand as an international educator. And I guess as a coach, I started coaching in a small school. I worked with about 10 to 12 teachers in an elementary school, and then moved. So as a sole coach, just myself at that school. And then when I moved to Nido de Aguilas, I had the pleasure of becoming and helping grow a coaching program with 3 coaching partners. So there was 4 of us, and Nido de Aguilas is a large school, almost 2,000 students. And so I've spent some time in Southeast Asia, and now the last 7 years at Nido de Aguilas in South America, coach on my own to coach as part of a team. It's been an incredible journey, and I'm so grateful for my experiences.
That is awesome. Thank you for the correct pronunciation. I'm going to try to build that into my brain and next time do a better job. I really appreciate that you had the experience in 2 different regions. And I know we're going to come back to that, because I think lots of people, maybe in the initial part of their career, they kind of travel around and then they kind of settle in a region and decide, oh, Latin America is the region I like, or oh, Southeast Asia is the region I like. I know my husband and I have been in Asia for the last 15 years, maybe more than that. And we like it here. So it's really interesting that you have that global perspective. And I know we'll talk about that in a little bit. Jennifer, can you do the same and tell us a little bit about your journey, how you got to where you are today, please?
Sure. So I started off teaching in New York City public schools as an elementary teacher, and my first international experience was at ASB in India, in Mumbai. And that I was a classroom teacher there in a few different grade levels and started doing some mentoring. Like I would call it a little like coaching on the side. And they kind of called me back when I was on a sabbatical year to do a little consulting. And I just enjoyed that interface and interaction with teachers so much. So the next job out, I was really looking for a coaching job and ended up in Nido de Aguilas. And really, so same kind of perspective of time in Asia, time in South America, and have been abroad for it's my 13th year and have been at Nido for quite a while since coaching kind of began.
When you look at your coaching program now, what does it look like now? How has it evolved? How is it different? Tell us a little bit about your coaching program now, and I will ask Jennifer just because Colleen can have a little break.
Yeah, I think across time, there were these moments in time where I think sometimes there's a belief that, and not just at Nido, like just in general, that like coaching isn't for high school teachers or coaching is just for elementary teachers. Sometimes you hear those things. And I think across time it was, well, why don't we have coaching up in high school? Or why is it just an elementary school thing at our school? And so in that sense, it did kind of organically grow in terms of interest in other divisions or from other principals who were in other divisions. We also had done a coaching symposium for the region. And I think some high school teachers and some middle school teachers interested in becoming coaches and interested in coaching came to the symposium, and it really sparked interest in why isn't this available to teachers across the school. So I think that sparked growth in terms of how do we grow out. And as we've grown out, there's been, of course, at the same time, coaching is growing. We also play a heavy role in curriculum facilitation as part of our job. And so we're balancing things changing with curriculum, mission and vision changes, like whatever the strategic plan is of the school, all of these things running alongside and seeing how as we grow, we're also meeting the needs of the school at that place in time and meeting the needs of different divisions in different ways. So some things looked exactly the same, other things look a little bit different. And I think too, with so much what international schools often happens, there's lots of turnover. And so that need to relaunch comes up over. I think we've relaunched, Colleen, I don't even know, maybe 5 times or 4 times at this point, because that need for constant communication to gain clarity around who are coaches at this school. What is coaching? What is that even? How do I access that? What is that all about? How do I partner and engage? Just changes constantly. So that kind of we grow and then we kind of are on hold, and it's kind of learning again, new principles. We've had new coaches join the team, and that kind of just continues this idea of we're learning. It's almost like that pre-launch all over again. As we're still growing coaching, it kind of feels like those 2 plates are always spinning at the same time. But we still offer student-centered learning labs, and learning walks has become a big part of what we've grown up into middle school. Colleen can speak a lot more about that. Her and Kristen and Tom and Nicole are more in the thick of what's happening in middle school and right now.
Yeah, I think peer observations too. We had this opportunity, I can't remember how many years ago it was now, but we did we had an open doors week where we were, and this was just in the elementary school, but there were all kinds of opportunities for teams and teachers and coaches to engage in the different ways and structures that we offer for professional learning, like the learning labs, peer observations, and learning walks. And this was a really fun way to grow the coaching menu and to envision different possibilities too. And now that those structures sit alongside our curriculum work and facilitation as well. So as we're co-constructing units together, one of the things we might do is, if we're anticipating some sticky points in learning for kids, is say which one of these ways do we want to learn together? And it might, lead to a learning lab that we do in the classroom together, or some peer observations as we kind of try to figure out some tough parts in the units with our students in the center. So I think our menu has grown, as well as like the program growing across divisions. And yeah, we're having fun with virtual learning walks at the moment in the middle school, and just doing some kind of like below and above grade levels. So if we're in 7th, we might go down and study learning with 6th graders, and then have a look at 8th graders in action, and come back and make meaning in our context. So I think the menu has grown, as well as the team across divisions, and it's been a journey for sure.
Okay, so I know I have all these other questions I want to ask you, but you just brought up all these things that I have to follow up on. Can you tell us a little bit about each of those things that you mentioned? You talked about learning labs, learning walks, peer observations. I'm sure there's more, but those were the 3 that I happened to catch in my notes. Can you tell us about what each of those things is? And then is there anything else that's on the menu that that I forgot or you didn't mention yet?
Yeah.
So I take
Colleen,
that, Jen?
Yeah, you start one and I'll add in. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll talk a little bit about learning walks. So we would, about an hour, 15 minutes, 30 minutes experience, we would come together for a pre-brief where we would kind of set a focus for the walk and unpack what that might look like in action. So some of the learning walks that we've done are values walks. So we might choose one of Nido's values and think about, if students are living these values in learning, what might we see, what might they be doing, and we generate that focus and look fors. Or maybe, it can be anything really, the focus. Some teachers have signed up being really interested in seeing how writers revise as they go through the writing process might be the goal. But we'll unpack that into look fors and kind of set the norms for how we will engage in, what our time in the classroom will look like. And we'll just go for a walk and we'll dip into one classroom. We might spend, 5 to 8 to 10 minutes in that classroom, just watching students at work, getting close to the action, and listening in and taking notes of what we see. And then we'll step outside and share some of what we see before we head into the next classroom, which is one of the things we love most about learning walks is seeing learning across different contexts. So we'll head into the next classroom. It might even be design or PE or art, but we'll be looking for those same look fors and kind of making meaning across time. So we'll visit maybe 2 to 3 classrooms, and then we'll engage in a debrief, rounds where we're sharing what we noticed, and how that connects to students in our own context or our grade level, what that means to us about teaching and learning, and then some action steps that we personally, some takeaways. So I think it's a structured way for us to learn together, and really the same as student-centered cycles, a coaching cycle where a teacher might engage one-on-one, or a team cycle. This is focused around a student learning goal as we walk and learn together.
Yeah, and very much like a learning walk, almost the timing of it. It's like you get this little, like sneak peek. It's like a little 10 minutes in this room and 10 minutes. So you get this like snapshot across a few different places with a lens, where a learning lab is really like the whole learning block, or the whole lesson, or how you want to see it. And we've really leaned heavily on, Diane Sweeney talked about different kinds of learning labs, and we've leaned heavily on the student-centered learning labs. And I think I just feel magic every time I engage in one. It is this deep unpacking of what we're going to see kids doing and saying, and you're watching this learning grow in that classroom. And then a group of teachers, they're just that image of them squatting down next to kids, or just smiling in the corner, or maybe even standing back and not sure where to enter. That all of that happens. And then these little huddles in the back of the room of like, okay, what are we noticing? What's happening? Are we seeing kids do this? And then these debriefs are just a beautiful time where, of course, instruction comes up too, and beliefs about teaching and learning and instructional strategies. But rather than we're going to come watch you teach, and this is a model classroom, it's this idea of we're all learning together, and we're going to come gift you formative assessment on your kids. and really talk about kids together and what they're learning at this place in time in your unit. And I think it's just a nice moment of how that builds in the debrief in terms of, here's what kids are doing. Well, what does that mean? What's next in learning for them, and growing that conversation together?
Yeah, and I think the other piece to the menu is office hours, just coaching conversations, from like a 30-minute looking at student learning together, any question that a teacher might want a thinking partner for. So there's that quick opportunities to partner with a coach. Then there's these larger opportunities. Then there's a cycle that you might engage in for 4 to 6 weeks, or even a mini cycle, for 1 to 3 weeks. So there's lots of, when I look at the coaching menu and I think, about all the different ways and we can learn together, I think there's lots there for whatever teachers or teams might be looking for.
And I know, distance learning, a lot of us have been online this year at some point. I know the other coaches in our team too, we were talking about the evolution of office hours during the pandemic, and how in any given day, it's almost like a WhatsApp chat becomes an office hour, a Google chat, a Zoom call, like it takes all shapes and forms for sure.
And when I hear you talk about all of those things, they sound very, and formal is not the right word, but formal is the only word that's coming to my mind. Structured or like organized in a very positive connotation, right? Like you have this thing, this is what teachers are signing up for. How do the logistics work for all of that? How do they sign up for a learning lab? How do they sign up for a learning walk? How do they sign up for a coaching cycle? What's the practicalities of what that looks like? Oh, sorry, I didn't ask anyone. Colleen, perfect, go.
I would say as far as the coaching cycles, there's regular invitations that we send out. And so we'll always, let teachers know ahead of time, or admin will let teachers know ahead of time, like, expect a coaching cycle invite coming on Wednesday. And so those, I think, invites probably happen maybe six times a year across the year. And so teachers can expect that to happen. And they know, like, one thing about our program is that you sign up for a cycle, not a coach, not a person. So we actually, as a coaching team, we'll sit down and think about schedules. We'll look at our schedules to see, to make sure we can take as many coaching cycles as we can. And that's been a process that we'll go through together as a team. So we'll have signups from the elementary all the way up to high school, and we'll be thinking about, okay, here's all of our schedules. What can we make happen? And so that's coaching cycles. The menu is always there. And so we'll always launch with, here's the coaching menu. This is how you can access coaching. We have an email, coaches at Nido. So teachers can reach out to that. And I would say that a lot of like learning lab or learning walk work might be connected really to unit development, curriculum development, and also in the middle school, really, they're trying to systematize where learning walks are kind of a regular thing. There's something that's possible every couple of weeks, once a month. So I think there's different entryways into these different options as well.
Yeah. And I think different points in time, like there was a point in time where we were doing learning walks every week for a few months in the elementary school. And it really was around our partnerships with principals in terms of, okay, what are some trends that we're seeing? In terms of professional learning, what are needs popping up, and how might we address some of those? And so a lot of it has come from principals, or some influence that we had. We think this might be helpful right now based on what I'm hearing you say. And I think right now too, the menu looks different. I think learning labs are not on the menu in middle school and high school right now, or at least high school. I can't remember middle school, Colleen, because I'm there last. And I think it's just how you grow it, but that always looking for leverage points. I would say that too, right? Sometimes there are certain teams, they love doing, like you have that one team that loves a good learning lab, and they're always coming and saying, hey, can you facilitate? We're thinking about this. Our team really, like, this is coming up. We want to dig deeper into this. Could you facilitate one? So sometimes it's teams coming and teachers coming to us and asking for facilitation. Other times it's even our principal saying, we all have team goals this year. One way you might engage in your team goal is through a learning lab. If that's something that you want. Another place is, like Colleen said, that curriculum, thinking about, I'm noticing, I'm hearing in this team meeting, this is a sticking point. This is an option. Do you want to study kids learning in this way together to uncover more about that sticking point in learning?
Thank you so much for watching today's episode. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. If you are ready to develop your coaching practice over the next academic year, please join us for the next cohort of The Coach. Wherever you are in building a coaching culture in your school, the coach will give you the strategies, skills, and tools that you need to make coaching a success. This academic year-long online course and mentorship program will empower you to confidently apply instructional coaching strategies in any situation, from building a coaching program to having a coaching conversation to being a leader in your school community. Registration for our next global cohort opens on the 21st of February and closes on the 14th of March. We facilitate only one cohort each year so we can offer individualized support for each participant. Now is your chance to be part of a global cohort of passionate and engaged learners, to leverage 40 weeks of in-depth coaching content with practical challenges to build your coaching skills, and to reflect on your practice for the entire academic year with a mentor. Become a certified Eduro Learning instructional coach today. Head over to edurolearning.com/coach to find out more. Here at Eduro, we provide customized online professional learning for educators at the intersection of technology, coaching, and leadership. Our mission is to empower the relentless learner in you to embrace your inner leader and make a bigger impact in your school setting. Join our Coach Better Facebook group and connect with us on social media at Eduro Learning for more great resources at the intersection of technology, coaching, and leadership. Thank you so much for joining us for today's episode, and we'll see you next time.